Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a place where every breath is a struggle and survival is a constant battle? Where the idea of justice fades away amid screams of agony and fear? In this video, we'll explore some of the world's most notorious prisons, where the line between punishment and torture vanishes, and cruelty becomes the norm. We'll dive into 10 prisons around the globe that not only test the limits of humanity but also redefine what it means to be relentless. These are stories of punishments so terrifying that they challenge everything you thought was possible. If you think you've seen the worst of justice, get ready for a journey where morality is tested, and survival is a grim game of physical and mental endurance. Watch until the end to discover how these hellish prisons not only break bodies but also shape minds, creating a cycle of despair, hatred, and for some, an unyielding desire to fight until their last breath. The question remains, how far would someone go to survive in a place where hope was buried long ago? Now imagine yourself in one of these places. How would you react if freedom were taken from you, and the only way out was to face an endless daily nightmare? This video isn't just an exhibition of horrors, but a reflection on human resilience, the psychology of survival, and the fragile balance between justice and vengeance. Are you ready to confront the limits of human cruelty? Let's start this journey into the depths of these prisons, where terror is both a weapon and a punishment. The first prison we'll explore is not just a place of punishment but a living nightmare where fear, pain, and despair lurk around every corner. Let's dive into an institution that redefines the meaning of hell on earth. 10. ADX Florence, USA. Deep in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, ADX Florence is a place where even silence is a weapon. Known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, this supermax prison is reserved for the most dangerous criminals in the United States: terrorists, gang leaders, and serial killers. Here, the confinement is so extreme that it becomes a form of psychological torture. Imagine spending 23 hours a day in a concrete cell, with no human interaction and no direct sunlight. The only window you have is too small to see the outside world. Many inmates report hallucinations, panic attacks, severe depression, and even self-harm. At ADX Florence, punishment is isolation, and it turns the human mind into a battleground where sanity slowly slips away. 9. Gitarama Prison, Rwanda. If there's a place where hell manifests on earth, it's Gitarama Prison in Rwanda. Designed for 400 people, it has housed over 6,000 inmates, forcing them to live in unimaginable conditions. They sleep standing up, crushed against each other on a floor covered in mud, feces, and blood. Here, hunger is so brutal that cannibalism becomes an option. Desperate inmates attack each other to survive. Infectious diseases spread rapidly. Gangrene is a common death sentence. Inside these walls, time is not measured in days but in battles for survival. Imagine living where hope is a cruel joke and death lurks at every corner. 8. La Sabanita, Venezuela. In La Sabanita, Venezuela, chaos reigns supreme. This prison is one of the most violent in South America, where rival gangs and corruption create an environment of complete anarchy. Guards are easily bribed, allowing weapons and drugs inside, turning the prison into a war zone. Killers control entire wings, and human life is worth less than a metal shiv. The result? An endless cycle of beheadings, torture, and constant bloodshed. Survival here depends on fragile alliances and constant paranoia that the next strike could be the last. 7. Black Dolphin Prison, Russia. On Russia's border with Kazakhstan, Black Dolphin Prison is a black hole for humanity. Reserved for Russia's most brutal criminals, this supermax prison operates with absolute control over its inmates. Isolation? Yes. Constant surveillance? Absolutely. Here, inmates are kept in tiny cells, searched every 15 minutes, and forced to walk bent over and blindfolded whenever they leave their cells, so they never know where they are. This dehumanizing practice isn't just a security measure, it's an attempt to crush any remnants of the human spirit. Many succumb to madness, while others are consumed by the despair of never seeing the light of freedom again. 6. Bang Kwang Prison, Thailand. Known as the Bangkok Hilton, Bang Kwang Prison in Thailand is an ironic name for such a hellish place. Imagine being shackled 24 hours a day, with no hope of release, while facing a reality of overcrowding, tainted food, and rampant disease. Many foreign inmates face the despair of death row without any outside support. They await their final sentence in conditions that defy human dignity, where hope is a luxury and death a welcome release. 5. Carandiru, Brazil, before being shut down. The name Carandiru still echoes as a cry of horror in Brazil. The largest prison complex in Latin America before it was shut down, Carandiru was the scene of one of the most infamous prison massacres in history, where 111 inmates were killed by police during a riot in 1992. The place was a boiling pot of overcrowding, diseases like HIV, and rampant violence. Here, fear was a constant companion, and silence could be as deadly as the sound of gunfire at night. For many who passed through, survival was a game of luck and instinct. 4. Alcatraz Prison, USA, famous for extreme isolation. Alcatraz, the Rock, became synonymous with extreme isolation and mental punishment. Surrounded by icy waters and treacherous currents, the prison was nearly impossible to escape. The hole, a solitary confinement cell with no light, was reserved for the most difficult prisoners, leaving them in total darkness, without sound, and without human contact. Many emerged on the brink of insanity, their spirits broken and minds shattered. 3. Diyarbakir Prison, Turkey. Diyarbakir Prison in Turkey is a symbol of brutality against political dissidents. Here, torture knows no bounds. Beatings, electric shocks, and sexual abuse are just some of the tactics used to break the prisoners. The experience of solitary confinement, combined with extreme violence, leaves a deep scar on the psyche of survivors, many of whom never fully recover from the trauma. 2. La Modelo, Colombia. La Modelo in Bogotá, Colombia, is a constantly evolving nightmare. Divided by rival factions, the prison is a true battlefield where death is as common as the sunrise. Beheaded heads, mutilated bodies, and the symbolic control of guards make La Modelo one of the most dangerous and insane places in the world. Here, living or dying is a matter of chance, and every day is a fight for survival. 1. Camp 22, North Korea. Camp 22 in North Korea is not just a prison, it's a generational nightmare where entire families are condemned to a life of slavery, hunger, and torture for political crimes. With no hope of release, inmates suffer forced labor, bizarre medical experiments, and subhuman conditions. Extreme hunger drives many to eat rats to survive, while the trauma is so deep that the will to live slowly disappears. How much of these prisons and their punishments truly serve to rehabilitate inmates? Or are we merely creating a cycle of suffering and hatred, where humanity is forgotten and despair becomes the only constant? We need to consider the purpose of incarceration. Is it to punish or to transform? And in some cases, do these extreme methods end up causing more violence and problems for society as a whole? If you have an opinion on this, leave your comment below. I want to know what you think. Are these punishments justified, or are they a sign of a system that urgently needs reform? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends so more people can learn about these shocking stories and reflect on the true meaning of justice. And, of course, check out our other videos on justice, prisons, and real survival stories. You won't want to miss them.